Today, we've got a guy named Tehari Cassell with us who, in my opinion, is one of the finest martial arts people in the world. And when we talk about martial arts, we always think about, what can I say, China, Oriental, Japan. And, you know, I'm struggling because I'm not a martial artist. I'm just struggling around, and my son's a martial artist, and that's the only thing I know about it. Tehari, welcome aboard.
Hey, good to see you.
It's been a couple of years, buddy, since I've seen you.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, and I know that you are heavy into your martial arts. You've been doing it for many years. You've been all over the world. You've got a school that you deal with, students that you teach. But you have got something that I'm really impressed with. You've got some truth to tell. A lot of myths have been brought about when you talk about martial arts in the world, and I'm sure that the Oriental people have, I don't know if they have all the kudos on it, as people say they do, but of course some of your greatest martial artists happen to be Oriental people. So this area has a super martial arts following around this area, as well, you know. Some historical background on what you do, and where are these myths coming from about where it started, and where do you think it started?
Well, I know where it started. And the myths exist because there are people who, of course, want to tell their story. And it's extremely important, and when we look at that, we have to realize that their story does not always reflect what our story is. And so we have to make sure that we tell our story. And when we do that, then we have to go back to the source. We have to go back to the continent that was developed first on this planet in terms of human civilization, in terms of human life. And that means we have to return to the source. We have to return to Africa. So the martial arts themselves, of course, have many spots throughout the world that it has developed. But it was developed there because of the trade, of the movement, the migration of African people, and their thoughts, their philosophies, and their teachings as it dotted around the world. So as you really pointed out in the beginning, that when most people talk about martial arts, the first thing that pops into their mind is the Orient. And of course, as you mentioned also, that they have produced many great champions also. But we have to look at the source.
When we're into arts, all the various forms that we find ourselves in, and we still find ourselves in the deification of somebody else's culture or some other people. Like, for instance, martial arts. If you go in a dictionary, you'll find that martial means a Roman god of war. Who would want to identify with a Roman god of war? And especially when you look at the art defense system that all of you will have an equal chance to see in just a few minutes. Long before martial, a Roman god of war, and long before the Asian art defense system, the origin of all of that came right here in Kemet. It was called the Mantu. The Mantu art form was an African defense system, long before a Roman god of war called martial art. Here you see another art form, even using the sticks and the art form. The one we look at is some kind of a karate chop. And then you see a flip that's taking place right here. So here you see, right, what they call judo. Here you see a flip right here, and also another form of the art with the brothers are trying to defeat the other and bring him down. So here you see an African defense system, but I want to show you that this is an African origin that goes as far back as the Nubas. It was an African defense system, meaning that in this African defense system, you see the same exact thing right here. Now look at this here form right here, and look at these brothers from Nuba. Look how far back this goes. This is the same type of African defense system that is going on right now with the Nubas that you see with these two brothers right here, to show it's an African art form all the way from the Nubas. The Nubas who live in the highlands of the Sudan. Now, also, just as you see these two brothers right here, mixing it up, one trying to flip the other down. Now look at the Nuba brother that you see right here. Okay? So that's why we come back in all forms to show our story, so we can document it, not just to have it from a European perspective, but have it from our African perspective, our African Kemetic perspective. As we see the Ta-Nehisi, Kushite soldiers from the land of the bow of Taseti, and we see them here because it is here that they excavated Mentuhotep's a temple and got these soldiers. But notice that they're holding the sticks for battle right here. So when we go back to Musi land, and we can see the same culture among the Musi, the donga sticks that they use for fights. To this very day that are used, but you see them in the Cairo Museum among the Ta-Nehisi that was carried down the Nile. The Ta-Nehisi Kushite Ethiopians are also, we see from the art, and these blades or rings are around their hand that they use for fights. Go and see when I was in the Bume village of Ethiopia, here January 6th, we see our brother is wearing the band around his hand they use for fights for the Bume. But his culture, you see him here, it goes all the way back to the Kushite nation.
Today I'm going to be videoing the tombs of Beni Hassan. And Beni Hassan is the city area here. And it's a huge cemetery all along the road here. And then you get to climb up these stairs to go to the tomb of the noblemen. So that's what I'm going to do today. These tombs are built in about 2100 BC from the 11th dynasty.
Here you see it carved in stone right here, brothers and sisters. You got an eyewitness account. Take your pictures and go back and show to others who continue to deify others instead of themselves.